What's going on? You're in the Beat Sessions. I'm your host, Mitchell Weary. Hope you've all been enjoying the holiday season. It feels like forever since I've last checked in, but like all of you, my work schedule has been very busy the last few weeks, had a number of other obligations as well. And so I just want to take a moment to wish all of you health and happiness through the rest of the holiday season. Be safe out there. Y'all may have noticed a lull in the album release schedule too. Tends to happen this time of year. And with that extra free time, I like to do a couple of things. I always like to go back and re-listen to all the phenomenal music that came out over the course of the year. And I think 2021 was an exceptional year. There was a number of fantastic debuts that we saw, a lot of solid albums from artists that have been around from the 60s, 70s, and 80s. I think that is really cool. And I think we saw a lot of artists and a lot of bands really do some of their best work, especially in light of COVID, which I think is very interesting. So I'm really excited to talk about my top 10. And keep in mind, my top 10 is compiled from the list of album reviews that I did for the channel. There's only so much that one human being can do. So if I missed anything, or if you just want to throw your own top 10 into the comments section, please feel free to do so, because that's my second favorite thing to do this time of year, is just to go back and look at all the lists that people put together and check out what may have missed your radar. There's so much music that comes out, and it's on so many different platforms that it's absolutely impossible to keep up with everything. Might be getting some help here in 2022, hinting at something here potentially, but I love using those lists as a resource. I'm also going to put together a list of albums that I missed in 2021, my top 10 albums that I did not review. Really looking forward to giving you that. But in the meantime, I want to focus on the top 10 albums of 2021, starting with my girl Tinashe and her record 333. In numerology, 333 is a sign that an angel is looking out after you. It's also a sign that the individual should take time to tap into their natural abilities and hopefully flourish as a result. And I don't think there's a mantra that better reflects the last 4 years for Tinashe. She put out Joyride in 2018 and left RCA. What we have here is a classic example of a dynamic performer who was very obviously restricted by the confines of that contract, even though she was still making good music. But she put out Songs for You in 2019 independently, and she just keeps building on that momentum with 333 here. We have an incredibly dynamic artist who really manages this great combination of R&B and electro pop, but she's also incorporating funk, jazz, and so many different other elements into her music now. And that third eye on the cover is no joke. She definitely has this very subtle psychedelic influence that's driving her music, and it's almost kind of like her voice. Very light and airy, but it's still strong. It still has a presence. And at times, she navigates this deep territory that's very sultry. I just absolutely love her range and what she's doing on this record. Key tracks for me include I Can See the Future and The Chase. Next up on your list, at number 9, is Queenirby with A Woman. And this is definitely my favorite debut LP of the year. Since 2017, Queenirby has been kicking out excellent EP and single packages. So I've been really excited to see how she navigates that LP territory. And of course, she delivers in commanding fashion. She seamlessly blends hip-hop, funk, R&B, soul, and she does it all within this great pop framework. Her voice sounds incredible, and this woman can rap probably better than anybody out there. She absolutely blew me away the first time I heard her. You got to check her out if you haven't. Key songs on this album include Juice and Naughty Girl. Coming in at number 8 on your list is Wolf Alice with Blue Weekend. The band's third record is certainly their finest, and it doesn't take long after hitting play to realize that this is a group of musicians very comfortable in the creative process. Having Marcus Draves aboard to co-produce made me a little nervous, but that's the beauty of collaboration. The dynamics, the relationships, they always work themselves out differently, and this collaboration worked out brilliantly. I think a lot of that has to do with Ellie Rosell and her strength as a songwriter. Her performance on this record is beautiful. Lyrically, she handles the subject of alienation so well, especially in this time of COVID when a lot of us are feeling that, and this record is just a beautiful rock and roll soundscape. Key tracks include Smile and How Can I Make It Okay. Next on your list is Sleaford Mods with Spare Ribs. My favorite discovery of 2021, and I know they've been around for a bit, but it's better late than never. I love what this duo is bringing to the table, though. Jason Williamson, an incredible lyricist. I love his insight, his snarkiness, his recitative style, and his wordplay. It just makes for a whole new listening experience every time you press play. And Andrew Fern bringing the music to the table. He's incredible in his minimalism. He can handle anything. Electro punk, hip hop, funk, whatever it is, the guy is bringing it to the table, and his talent equally matches Williamson's. Key tracks on this album include Shortcomings and Top Room. Next up on your list is Weezer with OK Human. Arguably the biggest surprise of 2021, and not just because they didn't announce it, but I think because deep down, for almost 30 years now, most Weezer fans wanted this kind of record. We've been getting a lot of the same old thing from Rivers and Co. for a very long time, knowing full well that they were capable of this experimentation. This is a marvelous 30 minutes, though. It's very Beatlesque. They get an orchestra, they go into Abbey Road Studios to record this thing. And after a year of lockdown, I think most people found Rivers' nerdy, introverted charm completely irresistible. I know that I did. I love this album. Key tracks include all my favorite songs and Playing My Piano. Coming in at number 5 on your list is Jasmine Sullivan with Hotels. Her follow-up to 2015's critically acclaimed reality show, Jasmine Sullivan is definitely not one to rush things, but it pays off because everything that she delivers is gold. Hotels has already won Album of the Year at the BET Awards. It's received a number of other accolades, and frankly, for 32 minutes, it's crazy that this thing is even considered an EP. There's 14 tracks, there's concept for days on this thing, and her lovely contralto voice is just in full command all over this thing. There's some great guest appearances. I absolutely love what's going on this record, and if you haven't checked out Jasmine, you really need to look at this project. Key tracks include Pick Up Your Feelings and Girl Like Me. Coming in at number 4 is St. Vincent with Daddy's Home. Annie Clark is a tour de force. Whether she's writing music as St. Vincent or producing other projects, she's just one of those figures in music. You get a couple of them every generation that everything she touches is gold. And no matter what type of style of music she's playing with, it just feels so natural. She's a gifted songwriter, an incredible lyricist, and her abilities as a multi-instrumentalist on full display on this record, just blowing me away. I'm still so impressed by her ability to play the sitar amongst all the other instruments that she plays on Daddy's Home. But really dig the overall vibe of this record. It's inspired by her father's release from prison back in 2019. Also inspired by the 1970s music scene in New York. So think of that lounge pop feel, that retro pop feel, lots of psychedelic influence on this record. Lots of great texture and just substance in these songs. It really is a lot of fun to listen to this record. Key tracks include Pay Your Way in Pain and Down. Coming in at number 3 on the list is The War on Drugs with I Don't Live Here Anymore. This pick might make a couple of you scratch your heads, and that's totally fine. I will admit that this is a very personal pick. I mean, all of these are, but this one is very personal. I really like this band a lot, really enjoyed the music on this album a lot, and thematically there's a lot going on here that feels very universal in light of the last couple of years. Frontman Adam Grandiseel talks about the creation of this record, being apart from his bandmates, and how that changed the dynamic. You know, he ultimately had to relinquish control of the album-making process. And it's really interesting to see that, you know, his bandmates making music on their own time, making contributions when they can. You know, they bring this project together and make probably their best record to date. I think it's just a fascinating study looking at the last couple of years, the way that creative people especially have been forced into situations where they're apart from each other and how they've managed that distance. And this record is a really cool example of, you know, if you want to let that distance creep into your headspace and beat you down, you can do it. Or you can just stay in the zone and work it out and do what these guys did with this record, because it is phenomenal. And I really like the title too, I Don't Live Here Anymore. There's so much weight carried there. I feel like a lot of us have had to leave some type of space, whether it's our house, a job, or something in the last couple of years. There's all some type of space that we navigated before this incident where we don't live anymore. And that title just resonates with me a lot. And I think if you give this album some time, it'll resonate with you. This truly is a marvelous listening experience. Key songs on this thing include I Don't Live Here Anymore and Wasted. Coming in at number 2 on your list is Tyler, the Creator, with Call Me If You Get Lost. On his 6th album, Tyler assumes the alter ego of Tyler Baudelaire, a character inspired by French poet Charles Baudelaire, who, much like Tyler, was infamous for vulgarity and creating incendiary art. However, you cannot deny the brilliance of Tyler, the Creator, pushing the bounds of hip-hop in a way that no other artist is doing. I mean, keeping his sound fresh and contemporary while also grounding it in so many traditional elements. There's a lot about his music that reminds me of artists like Tribe Called Quest or De La Soul. You get all this excellent jazz and funk and reggae and all these different elements that he's bringing into his music, and he's doing it seamlessly. I mean, this record is beautifully sequenced from start to finish. It's a little on the long side of 54 minutes, but with all the other bloated, overrated hip-hop efforts that were put out this year, this thing is, bar none, the best hip-hop album out there, and it definitely deserves a strong number 2 in the top 10 albums of the year. And that's going to bring us up to your number one pick. And I kind of alluded to it when I did the review on this album before, but nothing has changed. Your number one album this year is Church's Screen Violence. And if a picture is worth 1,000 words, then this album cover could probably write the last two books in the Game of Thrones series. All joking aside, it's an incredibly powerful image, a very accurate illustration, I think, of the personal strife that anybody who's participated in social media has felt over the last decade. These are not liberating, constructive spaces. They are designed to be restrictive and to make you feel trapped. And Lauren Mayberry is not shy at all from start to finish on this record, throwing all the punches, calling out all social media for the toxic garbage that it is. And I love how on this record she's reminding the listener that nothing on the internet should determine your self-worth. That is up to you and you alone. And I love that she's delivering that message with this bright, big, anthemic synth music. There's some times where it delves into goth territory a little bit. Obviously, with Robert Smith showing up on How Not to Drown, you got to do it a little bit. But for the most part, you get this very bright, powerful music that runs in contrast to some of the dark lyrical territory that Lauren navigates. And I think that contrast really makes for an incredible listening experience. And that's why this is my favorite record of the year. I think this is just a really cool record. If you follow the channel, you know that I love 80s music. You know that I love pop and synth and basically everything musically that's going on here. And thematically, Lauren, I think, delivered the strongest lyrical performance. And I think overall, this record as a whole, the message that it delivers was the most powerful thing that I had a chance to listen to this year. So I hope you enjoyed this list. I hope you find it helpful. I want to throw some shout outs to Vince Staples. Let's see who else deserved to be on this list but just didn't quite make it. Jimbo Mathis, Andrew Bird. There's a number of other fantastic artists that I really enjoyed throughout the year that, if I didn't mention them in this video, or if you didn't see them on any list or in any reviews, please feel free to throw them into the comments section, throw in your own list, do all the things, share this video, help me grow this project. And thank you so much for being a part of the Beat Sessions in 2021. I appreciate you all. Stay tuned for next year. We'll see you next time.